Mayor Mamdani, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here to talk about your first 100 days in office. We really appreciate
I doubt that she's going to be kind to Zohran because it's Meet the Press.
The opportunity, and there is a lot to cover. So let's dive right in. Let's start big picture. You came into office, you made sweeping promises on the campaign trail. I'll name a few: freezing the rent, free and fast buses, universal child care. Here we are.
It's been 100 days in, and you've done, what, 3 out of 5? Like, pretty good, I think. Why are you a piece of shit? Why only 3 out of 5? Why not 5 out of 5? It's like a standard they will never hold a normal centrist Democrat to, by the way. Normal centrist Democrats come in with wide, comprehensive agendas, never achieving a single piece of that. But that's by design, because they know that centrist Democrats are not supposed to accomplish those agendas.
100 days in to your tenure as mayor, are you still confident you can deliver on all of your promises that you made to New Yorkers?
Yes, I am. And I'm confident of that because of what we've seen over this 100 days. On day 8, we announced a $1.2 billion agreement with Governor Kathy Hochul to put our city on the pathway to universal child care. We are not only providing free child care for every 3-year-old in the city, we're now doing it for 2-year-olds as well. And by the end of our first term, we will see every single 2-year-old receiving free child care across the 5 boroughs of New York City.
And we're going to talk about childcare and a number of your other policies. You're also facing a $5.4 billion budget shortfall. You are required by law to balance the budget. Are you confident you can accomplish all of the promises that you made in your first term, in one term?
So I've always said that we would accomplish all of these promises by the time that I'm done being the mayor, and I'm fully confident of doing exactly that. And as you said, we inherited the largest fiscal crisis that the city has seen since the Great Recession. Frankly, this dwarfs even that. When we first came into office, we were looking at $12 billion. And thanks to the work that we did, the savings, the allocations of our reserves, the commitment from the governor, we were able to bring that down to $5.4 billion. Now what we're seeing is the importance of not just finalizing the city budget process, but the state budget process. And we're actually just a day from the moment when the governor announced that we will be pursuing a pied-à-terre tax, which will be a tax on the properties of the wealthiest of the wealthy. And we're so excited to be working with her on exactly that, because it will raise $500 million for New York City, and it will do so on an annual basis.
And we are going to get to taxes momentarily. But do you think you can accomplish all of your promises to New Yorkers, or do you think you would need a second term in order to promise and achieve the sweeping promises you made?
I'm going to just knock on wood over here for the second term. But look, I've said time and again that when I was running for mayor, New Yorkers would come up to me. They would say one of 3 things typically. They were talking about freezing the rent, making buses fast and free, delivering universal child care. In this first 100 days, we had 6 vacancies on the Rent Guidelines Board that determines whether or not that decision will be made. We filled all 6 of them. They're an independent board. They'll make their decision this summer. When it comes to universal child care, we talked about the $1.2 billion. When it comes to making our buses fast and free, we're already delivering on the fast. We are speeding up buses for more than 1 million New Yorkers, putting back up to 6 minutes back into their lives each trip. And we're doing this because we currently have the slowest buses in the United States of America. And we're working with Albany to make those buses free. And we're confident by the time that we are done with our administration, we will have delivered on these 3 central promises.
So you got the fast part for the buses, the free part. What specifically do you think you will have accomplished by the end of this first year?
Wow. Remember what I said? Anytime they got a left candidate, they did this with Bernie too. They never ask questions to Joe Biden about how we're going to pay for unlimited war. But they always would be like, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? How dare you suggest Medicare for all? Such a ridiculous dream. We're back at it again, folks. Mainstream media used to behave like this with Trump too. They would remember that they're capable of engaging in adversarial reporting. Now, of course, a little bit of adversarial reporting is good. But if you ask the same question over and over again, 3-4 times in a row, then you're not engaging in adversarial reporting. You're just being annoying. Like, he has, unlike many electeds, a fairly solid track record thus far in the first 100 days. I find it very strange that they are this critical of a guy who is successful and popular for good reason.
By the end of this first year, what we're going to see is us delivering these 2,000 free childcare for 2-year-olds across New York City. It's going to be 12,000 by the end of next year. Every single 2-year-old by the end of 4 years. When it comes to our buses, we will have sped up the process for buses for more than 1 million New Yorkers. What this means is 20% increases in speed across 45 priority corridors.
But buses won't be free by the end of your first.
We're working with Albany right now, and we're still confident that there is a part of this budget that could start that process of making buses free. We have 1 bus route free in New York City right now. We're excited at the prospect of building that out before we deliver it for every bus route.
And just to be very clear, to put a fine point on this, I don't hear you committing to being able to accomplish everything.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Just to put a finer point on this, you're a loser. Can you look at the camera right there and say, I, Zoran Kwame Mamdani, am a loser? Please, I really need this clip for my career. I need you to say this. Just to put a finer point on this, you suck, right? Like, you recognize that you suck, right? I know you've told me that you've actually achieved many of the objectives you set out to do in a way that is actually truly unique to most American politics. And the people love you for that reason. But can you just turn around to the camera and say you're evil? Can you please turn around to the camera and say you are evil and are going to do Islamic style Sharia law? Just give me something, Zoran. It's crazy, man. What if she's just excited for the free buses? Yeah, that lady has not taken a bus in the last 20 years, okay?
With 1 term.
I've always been hopeful of getting 2 terms, but I've always said to New Yorkers that we would accomplish everything with however much time that we get.
Days ago, you announced that your first of 5 planned free government-run grocery stores will open next year in East Harlem. In response, grocery store magnate John Castamatidis says he can't compete with city-run grocery stores selling food for free. If private grocers start closing because of your policy, will you?
That's awesome. Hey, I know you want to engage in price adjustments for some of the poorest residents in this city and do your very best to offer competitive rates. Why do you want to kill every grocery store magnate with a gun that you stole from the NYPD? Why? How many grocery store magnates do you have to murder in cold blood until your appetite for bloodlust is satiated? It's ridiculous. He's the motherfucking mayor, man. He's the mayor. His job is to offer things to the people that voted for him. First, they were like, hey, some of the things you said you were going to do, you haven't been able to accomplish yet in the first 100 days. Now she's like, what if the things you accomplish are actually horrible for big business owners? Have you thought about that?
Your policy have been a failure, or do you simply see that as the cost of achieving your grocery store?
I like that this question also implies, once again, a hypothetical that was designed by a capital owner who's in a competitive market. That's not a question. You just decided to take for granted what the grocery store magnate is saying. Hey, this guy who might actually have diminishing profit margins as a consequence of like your affordable grocery idea is saying you want to kill him with a gun. If you kill him with a gun at the end of this process, like he claims you are doing, will you feel like that's awesome? Will you stand on top of his corpse and say, this is a war that we're waging against the capital owning class? Or will you stand down and refuse to kill the rest of the capital owners in the grocery business? Zoran Mamdani, why do you want to kill every billionaire and millionaire in the United States of America? Zoran Mamdani, why do you want to spit on the faces of every millionaire that has made this beautiful city the greatest city on the planet?
So I just want to correct you on one thing. These are not free groceries. These are cheaper groceries. We've always said that we would have one city-run grocery store in each borough, and they would provide cheaper groceries, and we're going to do that by guaranteeing it through a basket of essential items, the kinds of things that New Yorkers need from their grocery store, but they haven't been able to budget for. We're talking about bread and eggs, the staples that have been skyrocketing. Now, I know that, grocery prices have been increasing across the—
Zoran Mamdani, have you ever thought about people being able to purchase eggs at a cheaper rate, causing them to get fatter? Why do you want Americans to be obese and die? Zoran Mamdani, the number one death for average Americans is heart disease. Don't you feel like allowing them to eat more eggs in their diet would cause them to accelerate the likelihood of them getting heart disease? Why do you want to kill Americans, Zoran Kwame Mamdani?
Country. But they've been increasing at an even higher rate in New York City. Our goal here is to deliver cheaper groceries to New Yorkers. That's what we want the outcome to be. John is someone that I've had the pleasure of getting to know, someone who's been a big part of New York City life. And I'm excited to be delivering this. And even as we may have some disagreements, to still looking to serve New Yorkers across the five boroughs.
If John Catsimatidis, though, closes some of his stores, will that be a failure?
Yeah, here's the response to this, by the way. First of all, can you guys believe how much Zoran wants to kill every single New Yorker? Have you noticed that behind that smile, as he narrows his gaze, he Islamically is actually salivating at the prospect of murdering white Christians? Have you guys noticed that? And of course, Jewish New Yorkers as well, obviously. Because I noticed that. I'm glad that other people are picking up on it too. Very dangerous guy, okay? Yeah, she keeps asking the same questions in different ways. Have you failed yet? When will you fail? How long until you fail? Will you fail within one term or two? When you fail, will you disappoint the people who supported you? Do you want to fail or do you want to fail harder? Imagine if they held other politicians this accountable. Ooh, someone's annoyed that they didn't get Mamdani to trip. All media channels are just there to fight for the billionaires. I have not seen this much media scrutiny on previous mayors of New York City. Amazing how she can ask the same question all different ways. No, what they failed to write here, which is, most of the questions, they nailed it. There is also one question, which was really awesome. If you succeed, don't you feel like others will fail? Because, she went, have you failed yet? When will you fail? How long until you fail? Will you fail in one term or two? Will you disappoint the people when you fail? And also, in a hypothetical where you do succeed, don't you think others will fail because of your success? And at what cost will your success come? Unbelievable.
On your part, how would you see that?
I will leave John's business decisions to John, but what I will tell you is that we're talking about 5 grocery.
The answer to this is simple. John Catsimatidis, or whatever his name is, literally said, if Zoran Kwame Mamdani, became mayor, he was going to close up shop anyway. Well, guess what he did after I became mayor? He came and we had a meeting, and we had a very cordial meeting. He's a part of New York. He's a part of the identity of the city, and I hope to keep him here. And it seems like he's excited to stay in the city as opposed to what he said prior. That's what happened. He literally went and did a meeting with Zoran Mamdani. He didn't actually close up shop like he claimed he would.
Stores in a city that has more than 1,000.
And just to be very clear, you're saying some of these items will be cheaper,
Yes.
the essentials, but not necessarily all.
We're talking about the basket of essentials. We're talking about the items that New Yorkers plan their lives around that right now they've been getting.
Some of your critics have said that not only have you associated yourself with a streamer that says America deserved 9/11, but that you might actually be responsible for 9/11 too. Zoran Mamdani, can you stare at the camera and assure New Yorkers that are not experiencing a psychotic, racialized, hallucinogenic episode, that you will not be responsible for 9/11 too, and if 9/11 too happens, you will not celebrate it?
Getting priced out of. That's what we're going to deliver. And we're so excited because the first city-run store...
Mayor Mamdani, can you please resign? Yeah. Mayor Mamdani, resign, please. Mayor Mamdani, those who's going to resign right now, says what? If you say what right now, you'll resign. Come on, just say what? Say I'll resign. Mayor Mamdani, please sign this contract without reading it. Don't look at the contract. No, it doesn't say I'm resigning from my official duties. You just don't know. That's a...
that we announced. It's at La Marqueta in El Barrio in East Harlem, which is actually the same place that Fiorella LaGuardia opened a market for fruits and vegetables at lower cost to New Yorkers back in 1936. We're continuing that legacy by delivering on something that, frankly, is a non-negotiable. It's food.
Let's talk about how you're going to pay for all of this. You've worked with Governor...
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Never a question reserved for centrist Democrats when it comes to, or right-wingers, when it comes to waging wars. Obviously, he's the mayor, so The mayor equivalent would be never a question for how will you pay for the police force and the 8 submarines that they currently have in the New York Police Department. Always a question for feeding the poor. Just remember, the New York Police Department has submarines. The New York Police Department also pays tens of millions of dollars a year in liability claims because, their officers are beating the out of people, right?
Kathy Hochul, to get some of the starting blocks in place for universal childcare, for example, which you referenced. When can New Yorkers expect to see full universal childcare? What's the timeline for that?
They will see full universal childcare for 2-year-olds by the end of the first term, and then in the second term, we would pursue fulfilling that for 1-year-olds and those from 6 weeks and above. We've always said over the course of the campaign we would deliver it for New Yorkers from the ages of 6 weeks to 5 years. What we started in this first 100 days was fixing the system for 3-year-olds. We've delivered on that. We're rolling that out right now, and then starting to deliver it for the first time in history for 2-year-olds. And I just want to go back to, sometimes this feels like, just checking off a box on a list that did we do something that we talked about. The importance of doing this is also because of what it means for New Yorkers. We're talking about $20,000 a year that a family won't have to shell out for childcare any longer because they know they can afford to raise their kid in the city they love.
And you still don't, you have agreement with Governor Hochul on that. You don't have an agreement with Governor Hochul on raising taxes on the wealthy yet. Will you be able to deliver on your promise of taxing the wealthy to help pay for your programs?
Absolutely. And I'm actually happy to tell you that pied-à-terre tax, that is an agreement that we have to tax the wealthy. Because again, when we're talking about a pied-à-terre, this is a home that is owned here in New York City by someone who doesn't live in New York City. And we're talking about the valuation of which is the super rich, not just of this country, but across the world. I was just yesterday standing in front of 220 Central Park West, and there at the penthouse was a home that Ken Griffin had bought for $238 million.
Zohran Mamdani, don't you feel like you put crosshairs on a beloved taxpaying citizen of the United States of America and also New York City, Ken Griffin? Why do you want to kill him? Zohran Mamdani, why did you show his second vacant property in New York? Do you want him to die tomorrow or do you want him to die yesterday? Objective news reporting here.
This is the kind of real estate activity that's happening in the city. Homes that are largely empty for much of the year, but it all occurs while New Yorkers are hurting in this same city. We're starting to actually bridge that gap, and I'm so excited to be working with the governor on it.
And yet, is the pied-à-terre tax an acknowledgement that you can't get a broader tax on the wealthy?
Oh my God. She's hitting every left note possible here. It's so funny. It's funny because Zohran will go to like left adjacent, left leaning independent media and they'll glaze the out of him, right? And then he goes on Meet the Press, and Meet the Press is like, why have you not destroyed the commodity form yet? Why have you not seized the means of production? Aren't you a democratic socialist? There are still factories engaging in the process of exploitation, something you should not be in favor of. Why have you not seized control over the factory floor, Zohran Mamdani? Zohran Mamdani, why have you not achieved communism in New York City yet?
Here in New York.
Yeah, why does private property still exist in New York City? Aren't you a communist? It's just funny to see the like whenever you have like a leftist that is pragmatic, that has to like move within the confines of what is acceptable, what's permissible in modern American politics, these guys will turn around and do the same shit that many do to me as well, right? Where it's just like either I'm getting hit with the hypocrisy beam, or I'm constantly getting yelled at for not doing a revolution now, like as though I find that to be achievable in this current moment. Yeah, there are no commissars in the street? Why not? You're just jealous that the press has double the standards you have? Yeah, exactly. They have not one set of standards, but two. It's true.
Which is what you promised and how you said you would pay for all of these programs.
I always said that I believed in the importance of taxing the rich. This is taxing the rich. And I said that the two ways that I thought were the most straightforward of doing so, a personal income tax, corporate tax, those were the two ways that I thought we could achieve it in the most straightforward manner. Part of that is a reflection of the fact that a pied-à-terre tax has been something that has long been fought for in this city, but hasn't been possible to get over the finish line. It's been really exciting to work with the governor to win something that many thought would never have a chance.
Why did you float raising property taxes, which typically fall heavily on the middle class as well?
Oh my God. Incredible.
So in New York City, as you said earlier, we have a legal obligation to balance the budget.
Turn it off.
We have three moments where we come forward with the budget: preliminary budget, an executive budget, and then the adopted budget, the final one. In the preliminary budget on February 17th, we had to both tell New Yorkers about not just the level of our fiscal deficit, but what was still left to fill, $5.4 billion, as you said. Now, I can't put forward an accounting statement and just say $5.4 billion, we hope to find a way working with the state. That's the truth. But in terms of what you have to put in your budget, you have to use the tools the city has to fill it in the interim. And so in the interim, what we did was the only tools we had at our disposal: a property tax and rating of our reserves. But I made very clear on that day and every day since, it is a last resort, because what we want to pursue, what we will spend every day looking to pursue, is working with Albany, working with the governor, legislative leaders. And frankly, we're already seeing the fruits of that work. This pied-à-terre tax is one example of how we're reducing that deficit and not doing so on the backs of working class New Yorkers.
You're calling a property tax a last resort. Are you backing away from it? Have you all but abandoned your push for a property tax because there was backlash?
No, I'm just quoting myself from February 17th. The very day that I introduced our preliminary budget, I said then and there, I do not want to do this. And the truth of it is because it's a broken system.
I'm not gonna lie, it does give me a little bit of pleasure seeing that this is just not a thing that I have to deal with. It's like if you're in a position of power, actually in a position of power, they treat you the same exact way. If you're even in any way, shape, or form to the left of like what is considered appropriate, like the quoting yourself part of this conversation is what I guess every leftist, even if they're a political commentator or a mayor or a senator, hopefully, inshallah, will have to engage in all the time. Which is like, I'm just telling you what I said back then, because you're leaving important context. You're leaving important context in this line of questioning.
It is a system far more regressive than what we want to do, which is progressive taxation.
So a property tax, increasing property taxes, is still on the table.
We are continuing to work with Albany to ensure that that is not the path that we go down. We're seeing in the pied-à-terre tax, we're already finding notes of encouragement that show us a different kind of path. This state budget, we hope, will be finalized by the end of this month. And then when we put forward our executive budget, we'll be able to update what tools the city has.
When you talk to New Yorkers, they say they feel like they're already overtaxed. What do you say to middle-class New Yorkers who are worried some of these taxes could wind up impacting them?
I tell them, unless they make more than $1 million a year or own some of the most profitable corporations in our city or have a second home that's worth more than $5 million, then these are not taxes that apply to them. And what I've sought to make this city the most expensive in the United States of America is one that's affordable for the people who have been priced out of it. And that's why I have fought for a vision that looks to ask those with the most to pay that little bit more so that everyone can live here.
And when I talked to you several months ago, I asked you about your push to increase income taxes. You expressed confidence you would ultimately be able to reach an agreement with Governor Hochul. Where does that stand? Do you have any confidence that she will see eye to eye with you at some point on increasing income taxes?
Well, I have to say that I am really glad at the relationship that the governor and I have developed. I wish it wasn't so unique, because relationships in the past between mayors and governors have not been this productive, frankly, for the city. And what we're seeing in that relationship is a commitment to this city. And when I spoke to you about the importance of personal income tax for $1 million or more, or corporate tax for the top tier of profitability, it was all grounded in the belief that we had to tax the wealthiest among us to deliver for everyone. This pied-à-terre tax, it is a clear illustration of that belief in action. We're so excited to be delivering it.
The pied-à-terre tax, you view it as a step toward a broader tax. It sounds like you haven't abandoned your push for a broader tax on the wealthy.
I think the pied-à-terre tax is an incredible step. I think the final part of this budget process is to ensure that we're balancing the budget at zero. And that continues to be the work that we do with Albany, as well as right here in City Hall.
All right, let's talk about President Trump. When we last spoke after your first Oval Office meeting, one that surprised a lot of people in how cordial it was. How would you describe your relationship with President Trump right now?
I would say that it's honest, it's direct, and it's productive.
And are you still in regular contact with him? How often do you speak to the president?
I'll keep the cadence of that between the two of us. Much of that is based on the premise of privacy. But what I will say is that those conversations, no matter how they happen, they return back to one thing, one of the few things that we have in common, which is our love for New York City and how to deliver for this same city. He said it after the first meeting that we had in the Oval Office. He told the press that were there that the better this city does, the happier he feels. That's exactly how I feel about the city as well.
Understood. You're not going to give me the exact cadence, but is it fair to say you have had, to some extent, ongoing discussions since that first Oval Office meeting?
Yes, and we've seen a second meeting at the Oval Office, and much of this is a reflection of the fact that he's the president of the United States of America, I'm the mayor of New York City, and we know that so much of what this city needs is also dependent on a relationship with the federal administration. You know, we are sitting here in City Hall, and I've spoken often about my belief that Fiorello LaGuardia is the greatest mayor in our city's history. I shared that.
Will you commit to fighting the president in engaging him in fisticuffs the next time you meet physically right now on Meet the Press, all but ensuring that he reverses all the decisions that he's given that are beneficial to New Yorkers right now? Zohran Mamdani, when will you punch the president in the mouth? Oh, it's awesome.
With the president as well, and I pointed at a portrait of FDR that he had shown me, and I said that so much of what LaGuardia was able to accomplish was because of a relationship with FDR, was because of the New Deal investments that we saw. And that's why in the second meeting that I had with the president, I put forward a proposal to build more housing in a single development that the city has seen since the early 70s. And it was something that he was interested in, and that's a big part of the conversation we're continuing to have.
You know, many Democratic mayors, governors, members of Congress have struggled to figure out how to navigate their relationship with President Trump. What do you think you have gotten right about that? What do you think that you're doing that's been effective so far?
Okay, you want to know the real answer to this? I don't know what kind of wishy-washy shit he's going to say because he's, Mr. Media Darling. But the real answer is he's actually popular. That's number one. You have to be popular and well-liked. And number two, you have to be straightforward. Democrats always offer a conciliatory tone when they engage with the president, and the president respects strength. As a matter of fact, not only does he respect strength, but he also kind of sees any kind of concession as a weakness. He reads concession as weakness, both with Iran, which has caused them to obviously make the wrong decisions, and also certainly in domestic politics as well.
I think, to be honest with you, I am lucky in that I have something that no one else does, which is that I'm from New York City. And New York City holds a very special place for him, as well as for me. We're both from this same city. And it means that our conversations are not just of the scale that is typical with the president, but also granular about even the things as specific as zoning law changes in Midtown Manhattan. And that, I think, speaks to the fact that Donald Trump is not just the president of this country, he's also someone who's been a New Yorker for his entire life.
He's the president of New York.
In this city doing well.
The other side of this is also because he is a cherished media darling. Donald Trump has always wanted the approval of the New York liberal media elite. That was his main gripe for the longest time. And not only that, but having the seeming approval of someone like that is something that Donald Trump has always looked for. These are the major reasons why Trump is treating Zohran differently than anybody else. And also, last but not least, he sees Zohran as an anti-establishment figure, taking out the establishment wing of his own party by force. So there's probably a sense of kinship there for Donald Trump, like a reminder of the striving, disruptive 2016 candidate that Trump once was as well.
Because you
His possibly best moments in American politics.
now had a number of conversations with President Trump. Do you trust President Trump?
I would say that those conversations are ones where we know they have to continue, and there have been times where I have raised things to the president. For example, in that last meeting, it was a meeting that we mostly spoke about this housing development. But over the course of the meeting, I did mention that just that morning that ICE had detained a Columbia University student. I mentioned to him that this was part of a larger trend that we had seen of 5 individuals being detained in or around Columbia University. I gave him a list of those 5. 30 minutes after the meeting, he called me and said he had now made the decision to release her. And so I think we see in those decisions the worth of a relationship that is both honest and direct and looking to be productive. And that honesty means acknowledging places of disagreement. When I was telling him that, I also told him, as I've said time and again, that I believe these ICE raids to be cruel, to be inhumane, and to do nothing to serve in the stated interest that it has, which is that of public safety.
Given that you have found some common ground with President Trump, would you say at this moment you trust him?
I would say that he is someone I will continue to speak with, and that I think, like with any politician, myself or himself or any other one, we should be judged by the actions that we have.
You and President Trump arguably both won on similar messages of affordability. New York City already had one of the highest energy rates in the country. Now, the war with Iran has triggered the worst oil disruption in U.S. history. Is there anything that you can or will do as mayor to help alleviate some of the high costs that New Yorkers are bearing right now due to the war in Iran?
We are looking to deliver relief to New Yorkers, frankly, even from before this war, because while this war has exacerbated a cost of living crisis, that is a crisis that existed from even before the time I was running for mayor. And it's reflected in the fact that we are the most expensive city in the United States of America. But I think your question also gets back to the fact that this is a war to not just be opposed on political grounds, on moral grounds, but even just on economic grounds. We are speaking about a federal administration that has spent upwards of $28 billion killing thousands of people all the way over in the Middle East at the same time as we're being told that this money cannot be found to invest in working class Americans across this country. And I wish that
Zohran Mamdani, when will you commit to calling President Donald Trump to forcibly reopen the Strait of Hormuz by offering longstanding concessions to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Islamic Republic of Iran? As a Shia 12er, this is well within your power. We all know you're practicing taqiyya right now as we speak. Why won't you get the president to commit to real longstanding cessation of hostilities with the Islamic Republic?
the words of Tupac from the 90s weren't still prescient, but they continue to be true for too many, which is that we always have money for war and not to feed the poor.
I know you're the mayor of New York, but there are diplomatic talks that President Trump says could be restarting. Do you support those diplomatic talks given the strong perspective that you have on Iran?
I support the end of this war, and anything that can deliver that I think is critically important. I support that not just as an American, but also as the mayor of this city. And I say that because at the core of any war is a dehumanization.
Okay, I was just joking, but it turns out she did low-key kind of ask that question. Like, that question is coming up. I was just kidding when I said it. Mr. Mamdani, do you approve of the new Ayatollah
that takes place? It is never confined to
Mr. Mamdani, what do you think about the reformist wing of the Islamic Republic? Mr. Mamdani, do you think that Galibaf could take over the role of Largiani as the pragmatic candidate, as the Speaker of the Parliament in Iran, that could potentially unite the IRGC hardliners and the moderate wing of the Islamic Republic, and therefore bringing about prosperity for the Islamic Republic for generations? Mr. Mamdani, why won't you commit to Galibaf becoming the next leader in a parliamentary structure in the Islamic Republic, moving away from the Ayatollah system, moving away from the supreme leader system that they currently have.
Battlefield. Recently, I read of a report of a hate crime that took place at a subway station. I called the young woman. She told me that she was a young Muslim woman and that right before her attacker threw her to the ground, the first thing that he said to her was, "I wonder how many Iranians we killed today." That's what these kinds of actions also breed. They breed a vision of the world where there is division, where there is a debate as to who belongs. We're looking to lead a city where we understand that anyone who lives here belongs here. It's time to deliver for all of them.
Let's talk about ICE. You just referenced ICE. In the midst of the government shutdown, President Trump deployed ICE agents to airports across America, including right here in New York. In the wake of that, former Trump chief strategist Steve Bannon suggested that there could be a test run for sending ICE to polling places in the midterms. What will you do if ICE agents show up to polling places in the midterm elections?
I will do everything in my power to ensure that that is not the case. And I think it speaks to a vision of this country where democracy is something to be suppressed as opposed to something to be protected. And I think that what we are seeing time and time again is an attempt to utilize ICE for all of the other functions of government that Republicans are unable to fund because they don't want to ensure that these kinds of quality of services continue across our country.
And I know you're not going to get into specifics of your conversations with President Trump, but have you directly raised this issue with him? Have you said to President Trump that you don't want ICE agents here ahead of the midterms?
I've said to the president it has nothing to do with elections. I've said to him time and time again that ICE is a cruel and inhumane agency and that here in New York City, we are focused on delivering public safety. I talk about affordability every single day. I know that affordability, it is premised on the delivery of public safety first and foremost. That's why, whether it's the president I'm talking to or anyone else for that matter, I speak about the fact that our approach to public safety in New York City, it's working. We've delivered the lowest recorded murders in New York City history, the joint lowest recorded shootings in New York City history. Staten Island has gone more than 180 days without a murder. Major crimes are down by more than 9%. We know what we need to do to deliver safety. We have the NYPD tasked with that responsibility. To think that ICE should be doing that, it speaks to a complete abdication, frankly, of the kind of politics that New Yorkers are looking for.
Let's talk about the Democratic Party and the future of the Democratic Party. Former Vice President Kamala Harris said just last week she is thinking about running for president again. Would you like to see former Vice President Kamala Harris run for president again?
I have to be honest, I haven't thought about the candidacies for president this time. My focus is 2026.
You're the only Democrat who hasn't thought about that.
And I'm proud to say that I am not and will never be running for president. And here in 2026, I want to be delivering for New Yorkers. And when it comes to the national level, I want to make sure that we win these midterms and actually have a vision that we're fighting for, not just one that we're fighting against.
Given that former Vice
Wow. You know what that means. He hates to see black women thrive. Bro just lied. Yo, he just lied. I mean, that's a non-response, which means he's racist. He is demonstrating misogynoir. He's demonstrating anti-Asian racism. He is sexist as hell.
President Kamala Harris was the nominee in 2024. Do you think she would be the strongest person to represent Democrats in 2028?
I know you're trying to get me to answer the previous question again,
trying.
But I have to be honest with you. I think that New Yorkers are tired of politicians pontificating about other politicians. What they want to see are results. And that's why my focus has been more on
Mayor Mamdani, why do you love doing misogynoir? Mayor Mamdani, why do you hate strong black women who also were cops?
Holes than on politics.
Let me ask you about some New York politicians.
Okay.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer notably did not endorse you in the general election. And now there's a big discussion about generational leadership in your party, as you know. Just 3 years ago, do you think that Senator Schumer should step aside as leader of Senate Democrats?
I have to be honest with you. This is another question that gets into the future, gets into 2028.
Well, this is a New Yorker, though. This is personal for you in some way.
Come on, dude. Okay, to be fair, this is like, you could just be like, yeah, he sucks. Nobody likes him. Even Amy Schumer probably wouldn't defend Chuck at this point, and they're related.
In terms of your politics here.
And I'll tell you that
like the Kamala one's going to piss off people, so it's understandable that you skip that landmine. You don't step on it, right? But Chuck Schumer is a little bit of a freebie.
Right now, my focus is on working with everyone, and that includes Senator Schumer. It includes others as well. And it's not predicated on, did you endorse me in the election or not? Because everyone is a New Yorker who has the opportunity to deliver for this city. You know, recently I worked with Senator Schumer to deliver on a hub of relief for delivery workers right here across from City Hall.
Oh my God, he's defending Chuck Schumer. Oh my God, unbelievable, dude.
That's what it looks like to actually work with anyone and everyone. We're going to continue to do that.
Would you like to see Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez challenge Senator Schumer for his seat as a part of the generational change that's being discussed?
I will tell you this, that I have had the privilege of being represented by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, and it was an honor to have that be my experience. Now it's an honor to work with her as an incredible Congresswoman, and I'm excited to see whatever it is that she decides to do next. I don't think she's made a decision as yet, but we're very proud of her here in New York City.
Do you have any thoughts about this debate over generational change? Is it time for a younger generation of politicians in the Democratic Party?
I think it's time for a party that reflects the urgency that we're seeing across this country in terms of a hunger, frankly, that is not as much tied just to age, but to vision. You know, we know very well what we oppose. What are we for? That is a question that I think we have to be able to answer. What are we fighting for? It was not just enough in this mayoral campaign to say that I wasn't like other mayoral candidates. We had to always answer the question of New Yorkers, what will we deliver for them? And I really think that that is at the heart of the question for our party. And I'll be honest with you, when you look back at the history books of our party, 100 years ago, we had a very clear vision of what we were fighting for. And it is sad that for too many Americans, when they want to look for ambition in the Democratic Party, they have to.
He might be refusing to say anything about Chuck Schumer because, like, then it opens up the faucet of questions that are like, what do you think about this politician? What do you think about Kirsten Gillibrand? What do you think about that politician, right? So he's just trying to probably stay consistent and stay on message. He wants to talk about how he's delivering 16 inches, okay? That's what it is. All holes filled.
To turn to a history book.
I want to ask you about some of the focus on you, your family, the First Lady. She got
you 34 eating chicken tendies that your mommy made you. Sag. Zoran 34 being America's best mayor. Chad. Why you gotta remind me, dude? Oh my God. Is she about to ask, do you condemn your wife? Oh, wait, hold on.
Focus on you, your family, the First Lady. She got a lot of attention after and I know you've been asked about this, she liked posts. They appeared to celebrate Hamas attacks on Israel on October 7th. You've said she's her own private person. But I want to ask you, and I think some of your allies want to know from you, do you think it's wrong to celebrate those terror attacks on October 7th?
I want to make very clear. I think that October 7th was a horrific war crime. I think that Hamas is a terrorist organization. And I think that any violation of international law is something that should be opposed. And I believe that because I have a belief in universal politics.
So do you disagree with your wife? Will you condemn your wife, Zoran Mamdani? Zoran Kwame Mamdani, will you condemn your wife so that all of us New Yorkers can finally feel safe?
Whether it applies to here.
Let's see how he said it. Hold on.
I think that October 7th was a horrific war crime. I think that Hamas is a terrorist organization. And I think that any violation of international law is something that should be opposed. And I believe that because I have a belief in universal politics, whether it applies to here in New York City or anywhere across the world. And I'll also be honest with you that when New Yorkers come up to me and they're asking me questions, most of these questions come back to, can I make my rent? Can I find a way to afford to live in the most expensive city in the United States of America? Can I afford groceries? That's really what our focus has been as an administration.
What do you say to New Yorkers who might want to hear from the First Lady herself on this?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Which New Yorkers? Which New Yorkers? Why are we abiding by the standards of people who are insane? Like, these are insane people. It is an insane demand. It's an insane demand to ask me to condemn my wife. That's number one. And number two, it's insane that there are still hangups on this issue. Move on. Like, what do you want me to do? Put my wife in front of Michael Rappaport so he can berate her? Like, what the fuck is this? Is what he should say. It's just like an endless sequence of humiliation rituals, man. It's ridiculous. Any question about Hamas should immediately be redirected back to Israel. It's not October 8, 2023. And even then, there was a conversation to be had about 75 years of apartheid that led to the violence that we saw on October 7. It's fucking bullshit.
I'll say to them that, the First Lady has shared her own reflections. I won't add my words to hers, but that I'm so proud that I get to call her my wife. She's an incredible woman and one of immense integrity.
I want to ask you about some of the Islamophobia that we have seen recently. You are the first Muslim mayor of New York City, and some Republicans in Congress have posted what are outwardly Islamophobic comments. In the wake of the war with Iran. Congressman Randy Fine, for example, even saying,
so let's just move on.
We need more Islamophobia, not less. How are you reflecting on that rhetoric as a Muslim American serving as the mayor of America's biggest city?
I think it's disgusting. And I think it's a reflection of a kind of bigotry that, frankly, isn't just confined to a Republican Party. It's become endemic to political life across this country. And what makes it unique is not the fact of its bigotry. Many Americans of different faiths face bigotry. What makes it unique to me is the way in which it is treated as permissible, that it's acceptable, that it's just a fact of life, that it isn't something to be spoken up in opposition to. And I'm less concerned for myself. I'm more concerned.
You can't expect them to answer like you would. No, that's why I said the only concession that Zoran should ever make is to the truth.
Frankly, for so many Muslims who face these same kinds of attacks, but we don't know their names. They don't have the privilege of serving as the mayor of the city. And I'm concerned about them because I'm concerned about anyone who calls the city home. And how do we ensure that they never feel that their belonging is in question? They never feel that because of who they are or where they come from, they don't deserve the same things as anyone else.
The suspects accused of throwing explosives outside your residence were arraigned this week and pleaded not guilty. As you sit here, are you worried about your own personal safety?
I'm very thankful to have hardworking men and women of the NYPD who keep me safe and keep New Yorkers safe each and every day. I don't fear for my safety, and that is a testament to the work that they do. I will say that there are threats that I receive by virtue of being the mayor of the city, and they will never intimidate me from doing the job that I am so grateful to have, which is a job to serve New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs.
We are in an extraordinary moment where political violence is on the rise. How do you process that and not let it stand in the way of your work?
I think it is something that we have to be clear about, that no matter who this political violence seeks to target, it must be vehemently opposed. It doesn't matter what you think about that person's opinions or whether you agree with them. To allow political violence to become a part of public life, it is the way in which democracy starts to disintegrate as a place where we can engage with those with whom we disagree. And it is all too easy amidst all of this to try and hide yourself from the world, to try and live only inside of City Hall or in your armored vehicle. But we always know that to best understand New Yorkers, you have to live like New Yorkers. And that's why I'll take the train, I'll get on the bus, I'll ride a bike, I'll walk around, because if I'm only seeing one New Yorker in the reflection of my window and that's myself, I'm not going to be able to fight for everyone who calls the city home.
And just finally, Mayor Mamdani, you are the first Democratic Socialist mayor of New York. Now that you have reached 100 days in office, how do you define what democratic socialism means in practice?
It is the belief that democracy should extend from the ballot box to the rest of our lives. It's the belief that we should be fighting for each and every person who calls the city home. And in a practical sense, it's the choice to not only deliver the first steps to universal childcare, but to do it while filling in 102,000 potholes, changing 6,700 catch basins, repaving more than 1,000 miles of roadway. Because what we know in our pothole politics and our sewer socialism is that the worth of an ideology can only be judged in its delivery. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to deliver.
Now that you've bumped up against the hard realities of a $5.4 billion budget shortfall and the other red tape that you have to go through, do you still believe in democratic socialism? Do you still think it can be effective?
I believe in it even more than I did the day before. And that's because of the fact that it is focused on the needs of working people. And working people need that focus, that fight from politicians more than ever.
Mayor Zoran Mamdani, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate your time.
God, that was insanely contentious, dude.